is going to join remotely. That's probably him right now.
You're live and it's 9.
All right, I have. Okay. You are present and listening.
Now, yes.
Jeff, are you on the line with us?
Hi.
Oh, there he is. Awesome.
He's
Fantastic.
only a 1F, Jeff.
He's only a 1F, Jeff.
Yes.
All right, now I have 9 a.m. We have 5 of our 9. We can go ahead and get started. I'll call this meeting to order. Any additions, changes to the agenda for today? Hearing none, it is approved as presented. Minutes from our last meeting. At our last meeting, I did state that I would ask everyone to review them in advance. So we're going to go about 30 seconds. And if there are any corrections, changes, amendments, additions to the minutes, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll just stare in space for 30 seconds. All right, last call for changes to the minutes. Hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Audience of citizens, don't all speak up at once.
We have none. And no, oh, wait a minute. Participants. Jeff Lewis is in twice. Okay.
Audience Jeff, no. Old business. So there was a public information session a week ago, a month ago. I've lost track of all time. Regarding our recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. Sadly, I was unable to attend personally because it was at the exact same time as another commission that I chair. But if anyone was there, which is to give a brief recap of what they heard, thoughts and feelings, please feel free to do so now.
And it is recorded.
Yeah.
Let me just find out. I got some issues with animal control. Hold on.
I was present.
Good, Mike.
The information was presented by T2, and I felt like the town had a lot of concerns over traffic. A lot of concerns were brought up, but it wasn't, and that's bad. Anybody else have my memory of it?
As Mark mentioned, it is online. If anybody hasn't had a chance to watch it, I do recommend. It's a lot of things we've discussed here one way or another. And now the town is discussing it. I will note that the Board of Selectmen did not take up discussing our recommendations further at their meeting last night. And I don't know the current status of that. I think Mark vaguely mentioned that's something they're going to bring up in a future meeting, but they've had one future meeting. I don't know how future it is until they consider our recommendations, or if they simply aren't going to consider them. That was also my thought too. I just didn't want to be the first person to say that. So yeah, I think could be at least a few weeks before all of that is sorted out. So they have bigger fish to fry, and then they will come back to transportation matters. Anything else on the current state of things in that regard?
I think the biggest thing I took away from the meeting with the town was they were just concerned with who we were going to choose or who are the vendors out there. I don't think
Right.
anyone, from what I heard, yeah, I could be wrong. I didn't see it as they had a problem with them. They just wanted to know about who the providers would be of these cameras. If I'm
And you are
wrong, someone can
talking,
correct me.
yep, and you are talking specifically about one of our recommendations, the automated traffic enforcement devices. Again, it'll be a very long process before the town even says yes or no on those. Regarding vendors, I've told the town personally several times, please don't get cozy with any particular vendor early in the process because that's frankly not what you should do. You should not have a vendor influencing the process by which we would adopt their products. So, I've said we can get an idea of what vendors are available. Krog has 3 approved vendors that they've vetted and use. But I agree that we need to look very closely if the town decides to adopt this technology before choosing a particular vendor, and should not influence any of the early stages, including writing a plan or potential ordinance. Sherry?
Another thing that I noticed at the meeting was that I felt that people, and I need clarification on this as well, were not sure if they would have an opportunity to vote. And my understanding is that the town as a whole would have an opportunity to vote before this all takes place. And that was something that people seemed to be concerned that it was just going forward as is.
I'm surprised the selectmen didn't clarify that. So there would need to be an ordinance in place in town to permit the use of the automated traffic enforcement devices. As with any ordinance, that calls for a town meeting. So absolutely there would be. Plus, the plan itself would go through a public hearing.
I think, the gentleman from T2 in his PowerPoint talked about how it had to go through an ordinance. Maybe people
But
don't
I think
understand
people
that an ordinance,
might get that and
Yeah.
thought and weren't sure whether they would, that this was their only opportunity to say.
No, long story short, there's at least 2 more opportunities. One with a public hearing for the actual plan that the state requires us to give to them before they would allow us to adopt them under the state ordinances. And then another town meeting once we compose the ordinances for Columbia that would enable the use of this technology. So, like I said, it's a long process and people are encouraged to be involved every step along the way, whatever way it goes. Anything else on this topic or any other old business related to this topic? New business. Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. This was something I brought up at our last meeting, and Sherry, I know you've dug into this a little bit deeper. I know the cycle for this year is basically ending now, but if you were interested, you needed to file pre-interest paperwork a couple of months ago. So, but we can look into applying for this for next year because this is not going to go away. And I would be very interested in finding out what people think Columbia could do in terms of applying for and potentially using state Safe Streets and Roads for All grant money. Now, I did provide the brief explanation last time that the nature of these grants seems to have changed some. The big changes of the last year and change are that they do not want to fund anything that potentially I guess slows traffic or impedes the flow of traffic. And the word beautification comes up an awful lot in the documentation for this grant. So with that in mind, I think that limits some of the potential uses for this grant in town. But I think over the next couple of meetings, I would encourage everyone to review this grant specifically and come back with ideas for how the town could best use it. So, Sherry.
Yeah, so there were a couple of things I wanted to bring up about that. I think Beth had brought the grant last meeting. And when I looked into it after the meeting, the grant cycle ended May 26th, which is next week. So it's too late for us to do anything for this cycle, but I did look into it a little bit, and I'm not really sure when it starts for next year, but there weren't any listed that I saw for upcoming years.
They don't put out next year's until months from now, but it's been on the same cycle for a
Yeah,
while.
the same cycle.
So what I wanted to bring up, I think it might be a good thing for the committee to look at in terms of what things we could do in Columbia that would be beneficial for the Traffic and Transportation Committee. This could be a good use of our time is to think of projects that might be funded through these grants and would be helpful to the town. In the past, I have talked about sidewalks. I have been interested in the town looking into sidewalks on Route 87 between Lake and the town center here. And I'm not at this point suggesting that that's what we would do as a committee or that that's what anybody else would be interested in. But as we, as those things have come up and somebody at the meeting for the automated transportation or automated ticketing had brought up the desire for sidewalks near her area. And a couple of things that I have heard mentioned, I think I wanted to clarify the information because it wasn't what I understood. So there was a study done a few years ago on the Route 87 with regard to sidewalks. And I will mention that there are many, 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 many pedestrians, walkers and bikers along that road. And when it was looked into, the engineers, my understanding was that they determined that it was pretty clear, no, not a lot of tree removal needed, and that there was, in fact, land that would be owned by the state, not individual landowners.
The
And I
right of
wanted
way
to
is pretty wide.
clarify that because I'm not sure if I'm incorrect, but I keep hearing it brought up, and it was brought up the other night at that meeting, that people would have to give up land and wants to give up land. And I had my hand up emphatically, not so much about wanting to give up land, but wanting to clarify that point that I believe nobody needs to give up.
They do
land
not.
for
The
that.
right of way is wide.
Yeah, so the right of way is wide enough to make.
Right. The challenge along 87 is the drainage ditches. They're huge. So the sidewalk couldn't be perfectly straight. It would meander as it stayed within or out of the drainage ditches. So they were thinking maybe it would be like a stone dust sidewalk or only hard where it had to be a bridge over some of the.
Right, so I just wanted to clarify that nobody needs to give up land
Correct.
to make a sidewalk. And the other thing is it was around $1 million, but I think it was 800 to 850.
Right, but now it's probably $1 million.
Close to that now. I did want to bring up that, you know, these grants that town of Mansfield just got, this was only a few weeks or months ago, that Mansfield's getting 1.95 million for bicycle and pedestrian safety for a specific project that they have laid out. So we have to, if we were interested in, we would have to look into, like, are these matching funds? Do you need to match them? Are they just funds for the project? And if you had a project like a sidewalk on Route 87, you also have to consider things like snow removal.
Mhm.
I don't know if there is an ordinance in our town about snow removal because we don't have sidewalks.
We do not have one.
So we don't have an ordinance. So that is something that's obviously a concern and a problem, but maybe not insurmountable since other towns have managed to do these things. So that's my thought. on these things. It's too late for this cycle, but it seems like if there are other ideas or projects that we could do to help this transportation, you know, we have a lot of people getting around in a lot of different ways. How could we use these types of funds to make improvements, to make it safe here?
I know you're saying it's too late in this cycle. It's actually really too late because in order to apply by the May 26th deadline, you have to pre-apply by like a March deadline. So we're actually right on time for the next cycle
Right.
because
You would need
this
a year.
generally takes a year.
And a lot of discussion and a lot of
Right.
things to obviously clarify. I mean, that's just one idea, and I'm not saying that's the project. I'm just saying, these are things that we can take advantage of.
So at this point, I think we are open to considering a variety of project options. And I think by next meeting, if anyone has any other ideas they would like us to look at, we should bring them here. And then as a committee, we should say, okay, we're going to go for this grant. What is the project that we're going to try to put together to do for this grant? Maybe it'll be sidewalks, maybe it'll be something else somebody else brings up. But this is free money the government would like to give away, or viewed another way, it is money we've already paid in taxes that the government would like to give back to us. We should not let another cycle go by without thinking about that. And luckily, we have this committee in town that can kind of push on whatever project we ultimately decide to pursue. So I think, let's actually set a goal at each meeting to advance us forward. And I think a reasonable goal is by next meeting, we come up with a list of projects and then as a group decide, let's try to make this happen. If we decide on sidewalks, again, there's people are going to push back on that in several ways, and we need to be prepared to look at the impacts that would have to town and potentially if ordinances need to be adopted, any other discussions that need to be had, and we can go from there. Chair.
Yeah, this article is just about one grant, but there is a whole list of towns that were from a year or two back that had all kinds, I have it in here somewhere, but all kinds of different amounts of money for different types of projects. I mean, and one of the ones I had suggested before was some way to safely cross Hennequin to Pine Road. That's been brought up many times as a concerning area. Whether it could be a blinking light that you hit to cross the road safely or something. That's also an area I think needs something. So yeah.
What we could do too is look at Haddam is building a very long sidewalk along 154, just forever right now. East Hampton just did a whole downtown sidewalk project right through their whole village. I don't know if that's 196 or it's whatever connects to 66. Hebron, that whole sidewalk project was monstrous, tied in with the whole state highway being redone. So these can be big sidewalk projects, but I'd also want the town to support it before we go through the entire, because we had a grant for that sidewalk.
Right.
And the town shot it down. It was probably the biggest upheaval. It was I think they had, how many votes? It was like 400 votes with 300 no and 100 yes.
There were 200 no and 100 yes.
200 to 100. So, but I think it was because the town at the last second realized that this grant was happening and the neighborhoods organized against it, because I think there's a lot of misinformation.
That's interesting because I would think that the sidewalk would not extend across 300 individuals' households' work.
It wasn't. There might have been 100 on the street.
Yeah.
But
so they might have been.
From what I've read about that, it was in 2008, so it's almost been 20 years since that happened. It was proposed as a walk to school grant. And to be honest, if you're calling a school walk to school grant and everybody's thinking now the kids are going to have to walk on 87, you can see why.
And I think too, there were more trees that would have to come down that have since died.
Historic trees that were going to have to come down. And that, from what I've read about it, I was living here at the time, It's been 20 years and a lot of things have changed since then.
And I'd say you'd have to dust off the plans that I did back when,
2023.
2023, and have a public hearing and say, do you guys want this or not? Because before we make this giant effort to get a grant and then have it crushed again.
Well, we would have to go to the Board of Selectmen, right? If we wanted-
Yes, I think you'd have to, from the committee, say, we think this is important, as we were just talking, this is one of our emphasis, but we want the town behind us
Absolutely. So
before we go for it.
again, we'll look at it, bring any other ideas. Next meeting, we'll actually pick one, but say that we did go with sidewalks. The next step would be, we'd have to come up with a potential proposal for where are we suggesting we put them. And then again, we go to the town, whether that's we put out a call or we recommend it to Board of Selectmen and let them put out a call. But yeah, very early in the process, we would need to see if the town is in the mood for sidewalks.
Also, I think you have to have snow removal in that whole discussion because in East Haddam, we have an ordinance that you have to shovel your own sidewalks. Well, it's not realistic when you're on a state highway that's throwing a foot of slush onto your sidewalk twice a day in a big storm. So in that case, I had to, when I was first selectman, had to help out in areas to keep them open.
And I will say, as somebody who lives on Route 87, this past winter, my mailbox was pretty much buried in about 5 feet of snow.
Right.
And, there's no way I could clear that, given the winter that we just had. So I'm very aware that's something to think about.
Can we just not?
I think that might have to be in the ordinance that we like at Rec Park, we don't plow the back part of us during the winter because it's not realistic.
Right, and absolutely, I mean, here it is, something we don't have. People are on the road all the time. If we had it, couldn't we just say, okay?
Maybe for 3 months you don't use it.
Yeah.
Available, it seems like a reasonable thing.
I mean,
Improve it most of the year.
Right.
And even when there was snow all the way up to the edge, the runners were running in the road instead of, because there was no
Right.
where else to go. And they were still out there.
Now, right now, we don't have an ordinance saying you need to shovel your sidewalks, but that is not because we lack the ordinance, because we lack the sidewalks.
Correct.
I assume we would probably have some sort of ordinance relating to other upkeep of sidewalks and things like that. So it's not just a matter of, well, we just wouldn't have any ordinance regarding sidewalks at
Yeah,
all.
you'd have to have
Probably would be one.
We'd have to weigh that. What do we recommend?
All right.
Okay.
Don't want to dig too far down on one idea while we're still leaving it open to others, but definitely next month, let's come together, pick one, see what we can do with it. Speaking of grants, I was forwarded information on the Connecticut Department of Transportation Active Transportation Micro Grants. Very briefly summarizing this, they are, again, from Connecticut's DOT, and they are very small sized grants. The total amount is $750,000 and grants are $5,000 each. This was forwarded to me by Tom McGrath because I think they are potentially interested in looking at these from the perspective of any of our open spaces. So for instance, Hop River or Zegda Farm, and most of the grant topics have the word bicycle in them. So this is to improve, it is projects will be considered shall contribute to equitable, safe, accessible, and sustainable active transportation for vulnerable road users. So active transportation, I think here means transportation that is human powered. Grant awards for non-infrastructure purposes and are to be spent on the eligible items that are listed below. Bicycle helmets, locks, lights, maintenance, rental of bicycle fleets, league cycling instructors, safety, high visibility attire or gear, non-electric scooters, bike racks, bike repair kits, bike repair stations, reflective stickers, and so forth. So I asked Tom, is there something you need us to do? And I think this is more of a 4-hour awareness / if one of the committees in town gets its act together and decides to go for this grant, they'll probably want a letter of endorsement from us supporting this. But I think it was also a larger effort to make this committee aware that we do have bicyclists in town. We have virtually zero infrastructure for them. I think Hop River is looking at installing a bike rack using some remaining funds from the Conservation and Agriculture Commission this year. And I don't know much other bike infrastructure that we have in town really, so.
You can use it to get your vests.
Oh, you're right, our safety vests. Oh, my goodness.
So I'm gonna continue following up with
Jim, I'll call you
Tom.
right back.
We may
Thanks.
hear more from him. I've invited him, if he wants to come in and talk more about this. If he has specific actions he wishes us to take. But I wanted to put this on the agenda now so that we are aware that this exists, / if anybody has any other thoughts on how the town might improve its active transportation infrastructure, we can also discuss that.
Well, excessive crosswalks. Definitely.
That would be an infrastructure improvement, unfortunately, so that would not be covered by that grant.
I do see that they have, in Andover, they put a whole station up, probably a grant like that. Where
Yeah.
They have near the library.
Very likely. Oh, and the other thing is this grant is biannual, twice a year. So you apply in first quarter, you can go ahead and apply in the third quarter again, assuming you've actually spent the funds from the first quarter. So, and they're basically leaving this open until towns spend this money, the $750,000, $5,000 at a time. So eventually they're going to do it, but right now there are probably towns that are going for it every quarter. And if this is something we're interested in, again, it's taxes we've already paid. We might as well get some of it back in town.
So is the Conservation Commission, I know they're talking about bike rack for Hop River. Are they gonna apply for it?
So
That bike rack's probably $300.
yeah, bike racks are cheap, and we had the $300 left over from things that came in under cost. So that's not.
So they're gonna
Yeah,
just go buy one.
that's just going to get bought. But
Okay.
if we want additional bike racks, any other equipment related to that, if we want to give out bike helmets to kids at school, I don't know. That's things we can come up with here. So
But it's focused on safety for bike improvement, sustainability, human power, all
yeah,
sorts of
active transportation. So
helping people do things.
So we will probably see this again on the agenda sometime in the next month or two.
Okay.
Awesome. Problem report review. So I continue to update the spreadsheet as we get reports. I'm not going to bring it up right now because it's more of the same, more in different locations of speeding reports. Some of the things that I get are not problems reports as much as they are solutions, suggestions, and all recommendations that we've considered. I think keeping the spreadsheet up to date is great, but until the Board of Selectmen actually take up the recommendations and provide us with tools or say no to providing us with tools that we can use to address some of these issues, I think collecting the data is about all we can do.
Is that report going to the state or?
He has access to it as everyone else does. I'm sure he.
At Downbees.
We just might want to.
We might probably highlight an outline of, hey, here's the most troubled areas you could need to focus on
Usually when something comes in, I forward it to the trooper.
as it hits.
Yes.
Okay.
So pretty much everything that's on there,
He's seen.
he's already seen.
Okay.
And he is already doing the maximum amount of enforcement that his busy schedule allows. There's not really officers available for additional overtime, even if
Do
we
we
have.
have speed teams?
Yeah, he did ask me when he gets back from, he's on military duty right now. When he gets back, he wanted me to remind him to request it. So that is from that meeting we had on cameras. He asked me at the end of the meeting, as soon as I get back, remind me, well, he's going to organize one. So that's a good start. So those are some small things we can do that could definitely help. On those lists of things to do, because I know we keep getting the calls of, what are you doing? Speeding still rampant in my neighborhood. There aren't many things you can really do until society slows down. And I don't see them slowing down. They're on my rear every day coming to work. And I'm going a little over the speed limit, and that's not good enough. And I'm cutting through back roads the whole way.
Do you know, Mark, if we'll have any opportunity through Gary to give the speed team, like, these roads are our biggest problems?
That we should probably prepare that right now.
Mhm.
Exactly where are we getting the most complaints? So,
Well, the spreadsheet does that because if a report comes in for the same area, rather than open a new item, I simply add that report to the existing
Okay.
line. And so there's a couple of sites that definitely continue to get reports.
all right, so Jen and we'll download it and print it out and highlight it and say here. So we can do that.
Cause I think that was one thing he had said, is that we're from, not from here, so we have specific.
Well, we're also waiting for DOT to replace all this is speed limit signs. And then I think they're going to make some adjustments to where they all were based on
What
there.
are those?
I don't know, I heard,
I can't think of it, but I mean, I know that's a process.
yes, so it's in the works. So that'll help. I think buying, this is how fast you're going, more cameras would definitely help. The research I've done, they're like 3,000 each. So in this budget cycle we're in right now, I don't have the money. So if we could find grants again,
So that's an idea.
I have 2 that are broken, and we got a quote for the new batteries and all, that's 1,000. Maybe if in the next month, if there's a department that has some money that hasn't been spent, I could veer some money.
Can we do fundraising as a committee?
Sure.
We can.
Go fund a speed
I mean, it
sign
might
for your
get people
neighborhood.
on it. They might, it's not like a huge amount, but
Right, it's not insurmountable.
yeah.
If you have a proposal in that regard, bring it to the next meeting for sure.
Yeah,
Just a thought, like, people want to put things in the budget, but I think the town will take our money if we want to donate to one cause or another.
I skipped over this because we went to a different topic, but you were talking about crossing for Hennequin Pine. And the thing you're talking about is the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. I don't know why I continue to remember that forever, but those are very nice. The thing is, I don't know if the state will let them put one of those on a road that's at 45 miles an hour.
yeah, they did. Well, where the airline trail crosses right before Lebanon on 87, they did put one there. But that's a state trail.
But they have one in East Granby for 20, so I don't see,
Okay, cool.
because that's similar speed limit.
And there is one, I'm pretty sure, on Route 6 by the Andover Library, which goes by the Hawk River Trail. You
Yeah,
walk the
that's
trail
there,
and
coming up the trail. Yeah.
But I think they're more prevalent at a real trail. The problem is you're coming off of Hennequin, that's just a road.
Yeah.
So I did request, I think, a crosswalk when we looked at Pine and, is it Hennequin and, not Pine?
Well, it's
Hennequin.
Pine on this side, Hennequin
So
on
it
this
is
side,
Pine and
56 goes.
Yeah, 66 in the middle. But all our ideas were shot down. Now, it doesn't mean we can't try again. But right now they're focused on 66 and 87 right here and 6 and 66. Those are the 2.
Is there a possibility of getting a light there? Because turning left.
They won't put lights in, they don't want lights. The fewer the lights, the better.
We would have
DOT's
a
mind.
higher likelihood of turning that into a roundabout.
Right. And drainage is a problem there. There's not a lot of room there because of the stream that's along the side.
Well, maybe a flashing light would work there.
Well, we have a blinker right there.
But they won't put one unless there's actually pedestrian infrastructure in place, like an actual trail or sidewalk or something like that. Because right now, the only thing it would do would encourage people to walk along roads they don't necessarily want to encourage people to walk along. I mean, they're already doing it. They're already walking on Pine and Hennequin. They're already making that crossing like Frogger style. And unfortunately, the state probably thinks, well, if we put an actual infrastructure there to say, hey, it's safe
It'll
to cross,
encourage it.
it'll encourage it even more, which I'm like, what's the problem as long as there's safety infrastructure there? I don't know.
I spent years in East Hampton trying to get crosswalks in to get the actors across Route 82 at good speed. And then finally the state, it was their grant. They shot it down because they said the New York actors will think a crosswalk is safe. And in New England, crosswalks are not safe because cars do not obey them and they'll run the actors over.
It's
So
getting better though.
it was bizarre.
It's been a slow process, but Connecticut.
So the most practical thing that we could put in there that I think that DOT might in some universe say yes to is traffic calming with actually putting in bump outs from the road, raised platform at each of the four corners such that, you know, you're approaching on this nice wide shoulder. You've got, you know, if you veer off 4 feet, you're still on the road, you're just in the shoulder. But if you bring those shoulders closer to the roadside or elevate them so that it's just, you know, a platform, one, it gives pedestrians somewhere they can stand when they're about to cross. And two, when you narrow a road like that, it psychologically makes people slow down some.
Well,
There trying to.
why don't I ask,
There to pull in.
why don't I ask our planner, because our planner's actively working with CROG and DOT on 66, 6, and 80, the two I mentioned.
It does not have to be large. It could literally just be wide enough for a person to stand on. And so, let me,
We should have them look at that intersection.
It's just tiny,
That
pulling into it with the bigger SUV. If there's a car like sitting at the stop sign on the pine.
Well, remember, they had to put a bump out to protect the commuter lot at West and West,
Right,
Oh, by East Willis.
and 66.
at West, where West hits 66.
my extremely crude sketch here on one. So call this 66 Pine Hennequin. Here's your really wide shoulders. If you use some of that shoulder to support an actual raised platform, a car coming this way, I mean,
Can't cut the corner.
it can't cut the corner if it's turning, but also because this shoulder disappears, it creates the illusion. Well, it's not just creating the illusion, the road is actually narrowing. And when a road narrows, cars naturally slow down.
Right.
Not every car, but
Is an intersection that we could potentially ask T2 to look at and give suggestions.
Yep. Yeah, you got T2, CROG, DOT. I'll ask John
that's
to
John.
include this intersection, John
Yeah.
Guzikowski.
Yep.
To include this intersection with our analysis of using our resources.
And we want to reach out to
can be
T2
done.
as well.
Yeah.
Because they might have ideas we would never even dream of.
Okay, let's fire that back up. Because it's a tough intersection. Sightlines are tough there too.
Yeah.
With the Department of Public Works trying to keep those invasive weeds down.
And it's so important because our park is right there. So we want to get to the park.
Are
I
they?
remember a woman coming to the town board meeting a few years back saying that she couldn't allow her children to go to their practice independently because they had to cross that street to get to the park for
Right.
whatever sport practice they were going to. And so that's what.
I was just gonna ask, are they gonna be spraying the Japanese knotweed again this year? How they went around and sprayed?
Probably.
They've knocked down some of it. And if they're doing a knockdown, I would think they're going to also spray. Because they took out a big chunk of it at Executive Farm. All right.
I know.
And
My wife made me mow the front yard. I was leaving it long for the bees. I'm tired of seeing all those purple flowers. I know, she made me mow them. I said, okay. I was leaving them.
All right, but yeah, keep an eye on the problem report spreadsheet as things come in. I put them there as I get them. I think that covers our new business. Correspondence, I didn't have any. Audience of citizens, they're still all at breakfast. Board member comments. Anybody have anything on their mind? The only thing I'll mention would be a brief shout out to the Connecticut Department of Transportation because as folks probably heard, someone decided to turn my mailbox into a driveway a couple weeks ago. But they also, the debris hit, there's a sign at the front edge of my property that says 1,000 feet from now is the intersection of Pine, Hennepin, and 66. Beware, it's there. And when the debris hit the sign, it had already been slanting slightly from snow plows hitting it over the winter, but now it's just like full 45 degrees leaned over. And so there's a form on DOT's website that anyone can fill out and say, hey, there's a problem with a sign in my neighborhood. Can you come fix it? And they were there, I think, 5 business days later.
Wow.
Fixed it. I was like, well, maybe they'll fix it in 6 months, but
That's
I
incredible.
was very happy with that. And I didn't ask anybody to push on that any further or anything. So that's a good resource that we have. So if you see any signs in town on state roads that are in disrepair, fill out the sign, and maybe they were just in the neighborhood for other things, but sounds like it's a useful resource.
We should probably have that link on our little website.
Okay,
That one and the report to Google instructions,
yes.
both of those, because that came up in the safety meeting. I tried to answer it, but
I can send everyone the link to the form.
no ability to talk.
Yeah, I think that same site, there's like, you can do a lot of different requests. Like a lot of times people call into the office because there's a dead deer or something. And so I just go in there, plug it in, and they're really good. I think most of them come out of Bolton DOT. And I don't know who runs the Bolton DOT, but they're really great because he actually calls every time and says, hey, I picked it up, just following up, just want to make sure everything looks okay, like within hours. So it's
Okay.
really great.
But well, they probably see your name and they're like, oh, this is slightly more important, but I'm just a nobody and they pan out pretty quick.
I don't think I'm pretty much a nobody too, so I just think they do a good job.
Good.
So
You're,
at least the Bolton one.
you're the second highest Jennifer when I type JE in my email. At this point, I'm gonna accidentally send you something that's meant for my wife. I apologize in advance. I got like 5 Jennifers. All right. Anything else, board member comments? Again, just take a look at the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant and then think of if you had a large bucket of money and look at what they're excluding as well, because there's a lot they don't want to fund. Maybe in a few years that'll change. I think we reached the end of the agenda. So if anyone has any motions that start with an A that they'd like to make, we'll just hang out here all day.
Motion to end this meeting. Second. Yeah.
It is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Jeff.
Mark, can you please call me later? You get a chance?
I will.
Thank you, sir. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.